He tried everything to find peace. And the answer was right between the extremes he kept chasing. Buddha, a man who had ultimate luxury, then tried extreme suffering, and realized both were wrong. Most people think enlightenment came from meditation or discipline or some spiritual practice. But it came from something simpler. Something most people never figure out. He discovered that the answer isn't on either end of the spectrum. It's right in the middle. In the place nobody looks, because it seems too ordinary. And what he learned about balance could change everything you're struggling with right now. So let's go back. About 2,500 years ago, northern India, there's a prince named Siddhartha, living in absolute luxury. Palaces, servants, every pleasure you can imagine. His father made sure he never experienced anything uncomfortable, never saw pain, never knew suffering existed. It was paradise, at least on the surface. But Siddhartha felt empty. Because when you have everything, you realize having everything isn't the answer. You're still you, still searching, still feeling like something's missing. So one day he leaves, walks away from all of it. The palaces, the wealth, the comfort, everything, and he goes looking for the answer in the opposite direction. If luxury didn't bring peace, maybe suffering would. Maybe the body is the problem. Maybe physical comfort is what's blocking spiritual growth. So he becomes an ascetic, practices extreme discipline, barely eats, pushes his body to the edge of death. Meditates until he's exhausted. For years he does this, thinking if he just suffers enough, if he just denies himself enough, if he just pushes hard enough, he'll find what he's looking for. And other monks admire him. They think he's holy, dedicated, close to enlightenment, but he's not. He's just destroying himself, and he still doesn't have the answer. He's traded one extreme for another, and neither one works. Then one day, he's sitting by a river, nearly dead from starvation, weak, exhausted, and he hears a music teacher on a boat teaching a student about tuning a string instrument. The teacher says, if the string is too tight, it will break. If it's too loose, it won't play. You have to find the middle. Not too tight, not too loose, just right. That's when it makes music. And something clicks in Siddhartha's mind. That's it, that's the answer. Not extreme pleasure. Not extreme suffering. The middle, balance. That's where peace lives. He stops starving himself, eats a meal. His followers are shocked. They think he's giving up, becoming weak, going back to his old ways. But he's not giving up. He's finally understanding. He sits under a tree, not pushing, not forcing, just sitting, balanced, present, and that's when enlightenment comes. Not from trying harder or having more or suffering more, from finding the middle way. He calls it the middle path, and it becomes the foundation of everything he teaches. The idea that extremes don't work, that the answer is always balance. That most of our suffering comes from swinging too far in one direction or the other. He said, virtue is the golden mean between two vices, the one of excess and the other of deficiency. What does that mean in practice? It means everything good exists in the middle. Everything destructive exists at the extremes. Courage is the middle between cowardice and recklessness. Generosity is the middle between stinginess and wastefulness. Confidence is the middle between insecurity and arrogance. Every virtue, every healthy trait, every sustainable way of living exists in balance. But most people don't live there. They swing from one extreme to the other. They try too hard, burn out, then give up completely. They indulge too much, feel guilty, then deprive themselves. They work obsessively, crash, then do nothing. Back and forth, never finding the middle. And that's why they suffer. Not because they're doing the wrong thing, but because they're doing the right thing in the wrong way. Too much, too little, never balanced. Buddha saw this everywhere. He saw ascetics torturing themselves, thinking suffering brings enlightenment. He saw wealthy people drowning in pleasure, thinking comfort brings happiness. Both were wrong. Both were suffering, just in different ways. The answer wasn't choosing between them. It was rejecting both. Finding a third option, the middle, where you can enjoy things without being controlled by them. Where you can work without burning out. Where you can rest without becoming lazy. This wasn't about being lukewarm. It wasn't about never trying hard or never caring deeply. It was about sustainable intensity. About finding a pace you can maintain. About living in a way that doesn't destroy you. Think about a candle. Burn it at both ends and it's gone quickly. Burn it normally and it lasts. The middle way isn't about burning less bright. It's about burning sustainably. So you can keep going instead of flaming out. Now here's where people get confused. They think the middle path means compromise. Never committing. Always playing it safe. Being mediocre. But that's not it at all. The middle path is actually harder than the extremes. Because extremes are easy. All in or all out. Black or white. But the middle requires constant adjustment. Constant awareness. Constant balance. That's not easy. That's mastery. Let's bring this to your life. Because you're probably living in extremes right now, without realizing it. And it's making you miserable. Think about work. Most people either work obsessively or avoid work completely. They grind for weeks, burn out, then do nothing, then feel guilty, then grind again. It's a cycle, and it's exhausting. Buddha would say, find the middle. Work consistently, not obsessively, not lazily, just steadily. Show up every day, do good work, then stop, rest, recover, repeat. That's sustainable. That's the middle path. Or think about relationships. Most people either cling desperately or push people away. They're either too needy or too distant, too vulnerable or too closed off. And they wonder why relationships are so hard. The middle is caring without clinging, being open without being desperate, giving without losing yourself. That's balance. That's what actually works. Or think about self-improvement. Most people go all in. New routine, new diet, new everything. They're motivated, excited. They're going to change their entire life. And it lasts 2 weeks. Then they crash, give up, go back to old patterns. Buddha would say that's the extreme. You're trying too hard, going too fast. The middle way is small changes, sustainable habits, progress you can maintain. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know what actually lasts. Here's another one. Think about pleasure. Most people either indulge constantly or deny themselves completely. They eat whatever they want and feel terrible. Or they restrict everything and eventually binge. They scroll for hours or ban all screens. They party constantly or never have fun. The middle is enjoying things in moderation. Having the cake sometimes. Scrolling sometimes. Going out sometimes. But not letting any of it control you. Not making it your whole life. Just balanced enjoyment without guilt or excess. This is what Buddha discovered. Extreme pleasure doesn't bring happiness. It brings dependency and guilt. Extreme denial doesn't bring peace. It brings resentment and eventual rebellion. The middle brings sustainable contentment. And here's the thing. The middle isn't the same for everyone. It's not some universal rule where everyone needs to work exactly the same amount, or eat exactly the same food, or live exactly the same way. The The middle path is finding your balance. What's sustainable for you? What works for your life? What you can maintain long-term without burning out or giving up. For one person, working 6 hours a day might be the middle. For another, it might be 10. For one person, eating meat might be balanced. For another, being vegetarian might be. It's not about following someone else's middle. It's about finding yours. And that requires paying attention to when you're pushing too hard or not enough, adjusting, correcting, not beating yourself up when you swing too far, just noticing and coming back to center. Buddha said, the middle path is like walking a tightrope. You're constantly making tiny adjustments, leaning slightly left, slightly right, never perfectly balanced, but always balancing. That's the practice, that's the skill. Most people want a system, a rule, a clear answer. Work this many hours, eat this way, live like this. But life doesn't work that way. Life requires constant adjustment, and the middle path is the practice of making those adjustments wisely. Here's what that looks like practically. You're working hard, pushing, getting things done, and you feel it, the stress, the exhaustion, the first signs of burnout. That's the signal. You've gone too far. Time to pull back, rest, recover. Not quit, just rebalance. Or you've been resting, taking it easy, and you feel it. The guilt, the restlessness, the sense that you're wasting time. That's the signal. You've gone too far in the other direction. Time to engage. Work, create, not obsessively, just rebalance. This constant adjustment, this constant awareness, this is the middle path. Not a destination, a practice, not perfection, just awareness and correction. Buddha spent years searching for peace in extremes, in pleasure, in suffering, in trying harder, in giving up, and he finally found it when he stopped searching at the edges and looked at the center, the middle, the balance, the sustainable way. That's where peace lives. Not in having everything, not in having nothing, just in having enough. In doing enough, in being enough. Most people will never find this. They'll keep swinging, keep burning out, keep starting over, keep thinking the answer is in trying harder or giving up completely. And they'll suffer because extremes always lead to suffering. But you can be different. You can find your middle, your balance, your sustainable way of living that doesn't destroy you. Not by following a rule, but by paying attention, by adjusting, by choosing the middle over and over again. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's what Buddha discovered, and it's still here, still true, still waiting for anyone smart enough to stop chasing extremes and find the peace that lives right in the middle. Watch the next video for more wisdom that actually brings peace.